Welcome back to Championship Court here at the PPA Championships, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate. I'm your host, Mark Renison, and you are looking at the very first serve of this pro mixed doubles match. This is going to be a good one, I think. On the far side of the court, in very stylish pink and white, we have Ben Johns and Simone Jardim. On the near side of the court, in the red, we have the 14-year-old Annalie Waters and her partner Kyle Yates, legend in the pickleball world. Annalie takes a swing, that ball finds the top of the net. Yates is going to take over serving. A lot of things to watch for in this match, which we'll get into as we go. In the meantime, let's let the players do the talking here as we see that ball find the net. And we get another side out.
0-0-1.
Yates finds the seam right in the middle of the court there. Nice overhead smash, puts that ball away. Really expertly done. One thing to watch for is the Ben Johns serve. Look how much spin he puts on that ball, both with the toss and as he makes contact with the ball. This is going to be a fun one to watch as Yates and Waters need to try to solve that serve, figure out which way is that ball going to bounce, and make solid contact with it. With that, we get a side out. Annalie Waters will take over serving. 0-1-1. That ball just finds the line. Yates and Waters agreeing. So one opportunity here, notice the stacking. Simone Jardim, she's going to return serve, and she's got a long way to run to go cover that right side of the court, which is where she will prefer to play in most cases here. Putting Ben Johns on the left side of the court, and that's a nice misdirection. Simone kind of had her momentum and everything going cross court. Instead, flicks the ball down the line, catches Yates off guard. Nice forehand volley redirected by Yates into the open court. Sometimes when your opponents hit the ball with speed, you don't have to do a whole lot of work. Just have to kind of redirect that ball to the right place. Nicely done by Yates. Right at the body, that forehand sort of shoulder area on Jardim. Not much she could do there. Jardim, of course, one of the legends in pickleball herself. One of those people who often just goes by one name. Say Simone, everyone in the pickleball world knows what you're talking about, especially if you've watched any of the other PPA events around the country.
1-1-1.
Wow. Waters keeping the point alive. A couple times looked like that point was almost over. And then with a great backhand passing shot. Not that often you see a clean winner hit from behind the baseline like that. Annalie Waters. See here why there's so much excitement about her game.
Second serve.
That ball finding the net, Kyle Yates is going to take over serving. Again, you see
2-1-2.
Jardim and John stacking. Oh, miscommunication there. Who's going to get that ball in the middle? Well played by Waters. Nicely done, Simone. Finding the gap in the middle there. It's one of the advantages of playing those dinks out wide. Moving your opponents off the court is sometimes if they don't recover quickly enough, or if you can intercept that ball sooner, you might find a bit of a hole there. Heavily spinning serve, well handled by Waters. Ball's just a little bit wide. Ben John's trying to reset. Not quite able to do it.
1, 2, 2. Thought out.
So I'm interested to see here whether
2, 1, 1.
Yates and Waters try to take advantage of the fact that they're stacking. That could create an opportunity to drive the ball down the line to the open court. The trouble is a player like Ben Johns is so fast and very tall as well, has a big reach. But sometimes you may think that hole is there, whereas in fact, by the time you get there, it's not. They tried that strategy against Jargine. She's there. There's that spot we've talked about a few times today on the broadcast, that forehand hip, how vulnerable it can be. Not quite a forehand, not quite a backhand. If you're looking to speed things up from close, you might want to try that at home. There's that drive we talked about, thinking that perhaps Johns wasn't going to be able to get there in time. Yates tries to play the drive, cuts it a bit too finely. Ball finds the net.
1-3-1.
1-3-1 is the score. Heavy serve from Johns. Great reset by Simone. An ill-advised lob. Jargine feeling herself right there, feeling pretty good, played a great reset. Feeling in the zone, thought that would have been a great time to play an offensive lob. Not quite high enough. Yates is there to punish her for it. Waters not able to catch up to that drive. Johns and Jargine. 3-3-2 here in this opening game. How much court Johns covers. So tough when he moves and covers the court so well. I don't think there's another player in pickleball who can play the kinds of angles with the kind of consistency that Ben Johns can, even when he's chasing a ball or off balance. Jargine's ball finds the nets there. Finds the net. It's going to be a side out. Again, we see this potential. We see that open right side of the court where Johns will be moving after he returns serve. Yates avoids it and instead plays it back to Jargine.
Second serve.
And he can't quite get out of the way of that ball in time. Waters finds him just on the handle of the paddle. Crowd filling in nicely here. They're trying to stick to the shade a little bit if they can. It's quite warm here in Las Vegas. Ben's backhand volley just too strong. Yates not able to reset it. Ball finds the net. That's the other thing I would argue that Ben Johns does better than most out there. He's being able to generate speed off that backhand side. Sometimes in a defensive situation, he'll use two hands, but more typically in the offensive ones, he'll stick with the single-handed backhand. That's what I'm talking about there. Even though the forehand is the one that finishes the point, it was that backhand flick, low with topspin. Even after receiving a low ball, that's what set up the forehand opportunity.
4-4-1.
Georgine tries to get that ball to climb over the net. Can't quite do it.
4-4-2.
4-4-2 is the score. Game number 1 here at the PPA Championship, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate. Georgine not sure about that third shot. Not very often you'll see her play that sort of mini lob as a third shot.
4-4-1. Second serve.
Johns and Georgine are going to watch that ball sail along. Just a reminder, if you would like to join us here in Las Vegas at the PPA Championship, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate, there are still tickets available for the weekend. We've got men's and women's doubles taking place tomorrow. We've got Championship Sunday, of course, which will feature some doubles as well as some singles. There's a lot of action to look forward to. Head over to ppatour.com. A little bit of craftiness there from Kyle Yates, one of the more creative players on the tour, I would say. Kyle's always looking either a competitive situation or not to find new interesting ways to bring some flair to pickleball. Waters handles the first ball, not able to handle the second. There's that strong backhand we talked about Ben Johns. 4-5-1. The ball lands just inside the line. Nicely done by Yates to finish off that point.
4-5-2.
Look for some heavy spin here from Johns. Leads to a short. There we go. So we just saw there was a nice example of why the serve can be such an advantage. We see more and more players hitting serves hard, using different techniques to create a lot of spin.
5-5-2.
While it's a nice bonus to win the point directly off your serve, more often than not, really what you're trying to do is just elicit a poor return, something that you can maybe pounce on for that next shot. So we've looked for these players to continue to use that kind of approach when serving in this match. Simone attacks the body of Waters. She's not able to hang on to it.
6-5-2.
6-5-2. Of course, with that more aggressive serve, using more spin, hitting the ball harder, lower, sometimes it will turn into an error.
5-6-1.
That's a price that the players have got to be willing to pay if they're trying to get something really productive from their serve. An occasional miss. Ben Johns finishes the point. What a great rally that was. A lot of action there. Really love seeing these kinds of points, and you see the sort of diverse set of skills that players need to have to be able to play at this level. To be able to hit hard and soft, attack, defend, and even improvise. Love it. Georgine not able to get that ball back over the net.
6-6-2.
Locked at 6 here, as Don Stanley lets us know. Referee Don, 6-6-2. John's a little too casual on that backhand. Well positioned by Waters.
7-6-2.
Simone's backhand sail is just a little bit wide. There we go. Annalie Waters sitting on that backhand, but Ben Johns was doing the same. She plays a good shot right there, but Ben using his own backhand to redirect it with pace. Tough to defend against that. 6-8-1. Johns, Jarjim in a bit of a hole. Yates does a nice job of getting the ball down into the dirt where Jarjim not able to defend.
6-8-2.
Young Waters finds the net with that forehand dink. Didn't quite get it high enough.
7-8-2.
We're at 7-8-2. There we go. We talked about the creativity of Yates. Very often in that situation, you'll see players accelerate through that ball, hit some topspin. Instead, he just lays it. Nice little inside-out forehand.
8-7-1.
8-7-1. Waters looking for the Ernie, not quite there. Johns sees it coming. There we go, nice combination there. I love that 1-2 punch. One player goes back for the overhead smash. The other one comes across the middle to collect anything that comes back because it's likely to be high. Jarjim and Johns teamed up nicely for that one. Waters really playing her game there. Exceptional power player. Really impressed me the maturity she started to show as her game develops to use the power to great effect, but also to understand when it's time to slow things down a bit. There we go. There's a nice counterattack from Yates. The ball is sitting just high enough on the forehand. He could hit on a downward trajectory, putting that ball into the dirt. And it looks like Jarjim and Johns, they're going to have a timeout. That means a hydration break. That means it's brought to you by our good friends at Jigsaw Health.
All right. Let me hear you. Let's hear it for Annalie.
Welcome back to Championship Court here in Las Vegas, Nevada. The PPA Championship brought to you by Guaranteed Rate. I guarantee you're going to want to stick around and watch the rest of this match. We got some great players on this court. Simone Jarjim, Ben Johns, taking on Kyle Yates, and Annalie Waters. We're at 10-7-2. This is a game point. Yates aggressively goes across to get that ball, poaches it out of the air. John's not able to hang on, and that is going to be game number one. Yates and Waters, they take the first game in this best-of-3 match. You got to think that Jarjim and Johns, they're going to get ready to make a bit of a plan. What went wrong? Was it an execution problem? Was it a strategy problem? They're going to discuss that. And while they discuss that, we're going to take a quick break as well. We're going to be back in a moment with more PPA Championship Las Vegas, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate. Welcome back to Championship Court here, Las Vegas PPA Championship, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate. I'm your host, Mark Renison. You've been enjoying a doozy of a match. Yates, Waters take game number one against Ben Johns, Simone Jarjim. They're going to look to add to this. You got to think that Johns and Jarjim are ready to say something about it. Waters wisely lets that ball go out. 1-0-2. Got to think that Johns and Jardim, they have not been in this position a whole lot. Consider their stature in the pickleball world as a doubles team. It's going to be a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling here being down, especially after game number 1. They're going to look to come back here, but they are such veterans, such professionals in the truest sense of the word. You got to think that they, Simone takes a long look at that line. They're going to find a way to regroup here. Challenge Young, Waters, and Yates. They're going to try to get as much of a lead here as they can. Keep that pressure on. Yates going for the third shot lob. I think what was happening there, we felt a little bit of a breeze come through. I thought he was hitting that ball into the wind. Didn't quite knock it down enough. Yates being aggressive. Look for him to poach if he can. Nicely done by Ben Johns. So tough there. I talked earlier in this broadcast about his ability to be off balance, be able to reach and still hit high quality balls. We saw a nice example of it there. Yates hit a good offensive shot. Johns has the answer. Emily Waters backhand volley sails a little bit low. It's going to be a point for Jardim and Johns. 1-2-1. There we go. Again, we've seen a couple of those from Mr. Yates today. Those high volleys. In that case, Simone and Ben, they both back up, give themselves more time to defend. And that opens up the front of the court. Yates executes very nicely. The ball just catches the back of the line. Simone was hoping she could call it out. But of course, even if it touches just a smidgen of that line, it's going to be in.
2-1-1.
2-1-1. See how small the area is that Jardim is going to be responsible for here. Forcing Yates and Waters to play really tight to that sideline if they want to avoid Johns. Look for a drive down the line to the open court. There it is. They created the opportunity. So that's what Yates was looking for by playing that drive, hoping that Jardim wasn't going to be there in time. She sets the ball up a little bit high, and he's got what he wants, just can't quite finish it. But if I'm Yates in that situation, I think, hey, we did the right thing there. We just need to execute a little better next time. It's going to be another point for Yates and Waters. Continuing this little bit of a roll here. Right now it seems like Johns and Jardim a little bit flat, trying to find a bit of a spark here to get things going. Right now, in many ways, Yates and Waters are dictating play. There's another example of it right there, finding that backhand. I talked about that trickiness that Yates brings to the game, that creativity. Nice job flicking that backhand, changing the paddle face to keep that ball low. 5-1-2. Jardim gets a little bit of help off the top of the net there. Yates with his backhand not able to find the court. Ben Johns to serve.
1-5-1.
1-5-1 and a bit of a hole. The 14-year-old nicely placed flick right at the body of Jardim. That overhead smash volley combination. There we go, Annalie Waters, the youngster, has a read on that backhand that Johns is trying to play through the middle of the court. Puts those two hands on, takes a big rip. She's gonna be satisfied with that result.
5-1-1.
5-1-1, Kyle Yates to serve. Kyle Yates defends. Well placed by Jarjim. She looked like she caught Yates off guard a little bit. Gets the ball back in play and manages to come out with a point. 6-1-1. Jarjim working hard. This is her game to be able to defend. Jarjim cannot quite come up with that last one. A good forehand smash put away by Yates. We start to see how important defense is. It looks like there's going to be a timeout here, I suspect, from Jarjim and Johns. We're going to have a quick hydration break ourselves. This is brought to you by Jigsaw Health. We're going to come back with the conclusion of game number 2. Stay close. We are back at championship court here. Two of the top players in the pickleball world, Simone Jarjim, Ben Johns. They're in a little bit of a hole here. That's putting it mildly. After Kyle Yates and Annalie Waters won game number 1. 7-1, Yates and Waters.
7-1-1. Second serve. 7-1-2.
7-1-2 is the score. Waters serving drives to that open court. Kyle Yates backhand, trying to reset, trying to defend. Ball just finds the outside of the court.
1-7-1.
1-7-1. Yates looking for a potential Ernie. Jarjim avoids it by hitting cross court. It's like an errant ball came from a neighboring court. That means we're going to replay that point. You pickleball fans at home might be pretty familiar with that kind of situation. Back to it again. Ben Johns serving.
Second serve.
His forehand drop finds the net.
1-7-2.
1-7-2. Gotta think Jarjim and Johns really need to score some points here. Can they find a way? Kyle Yates keeps that ball low with a little bit of spin. Jarjim not able to dig that backhand out.
7-1-1.
7-1-1. Annalie Waters asserting herself there, going hard with that high backhand volley down into the dirt.
8-1-1.
8-1-1. Just wide. Waters was looking for that forehand. You could see her standing outside of the sideline, knowing that if that ball came back to her, it would be on her dominant side.
8-1-2.
Not quite able to make it. 8-1-2.
Point.
Return of serve goes long. commanding lead here for Yates and Waters. 9-1-2.
9-1-2.
Ben John's high forehand goes down by the feet of Waters. She's not able to get that ball back in play. One nine. Johns, Jarjim trying to hang on here, trying to put something together and stay in this match. Well left by Jarjim. That ball, a little too much speed on it from Waters. In that case, she's not necessarily trying to make sure the ball stays in play. Sometimes in that situation, you're just trying to hit your opponent, at least make contact with them, take the point that way. Looks like we've got another ball on the court, so there's going to be a let called there. We're going to replay that point. 2-9-1. Ben Johns spinning that serve in deep. Well handled by Waters. There we go. Good counterattack by Waters. Looked like she saw that little poke coming from Ben Johns down the line with his backhand. She's all over it, and we're at 2-9-2. That ball finds the inside of the line as well. Jarjim thinking it might sail long. Had just enough topspin to stay in there. That's going to be a side out. Yates and Waters looking to close this out and to collect the upset.
9-2-1. Second, third.
Waters' third shot drive finds the net. In this situation, really want to make your opponents play, make them work for it, not give them any freebies.
Attention women's doubles senior pro. We've just assigned your matches to court. Please go directly to your court to meet your referee. This is the women's doubles senior pro. Please report directly to your court. We've just texted you those assignments and meet your referee. Come on!
Annalie Waters shows a lot of maturity there, staying in the point, not changing the pattern too soon. This is a match point here. Waters, Yates. Can they finish off Jarjim and Johns? And the answer is yes. Annalie Waters, Kyle Yates, they take down the favorites, Ben Johns, Simone Jarjim. That is a major victory for Waters and Yates. Good players in their own right. But Johns and Jarjim have been so tough for so long. Gotta say, really appreciated a few different things from the Yates-Waters team. The maturity, the patience on the side of Annalie Waters, the 14-year-old, to stay in those dinking rallies longer, not going with speed too soon. Kyle Yates really impressed us with some of his creativity on the court. We saw those drop volleys that everyone in the stadium, including Jarjim and Johns, thought were going to be hit hard, end up landing in the kitchen soft. Soft, so soft. It was great. We've got great action coming up for you next. You can see right now Lucy Kovalova and Matt Wright, they're warming up. They are going to be taking on Tyson McGuffin and Lee Waters, the mother of Annalie Waters. We're going to see them in a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back more from the PPA Championship, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate.